Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good. No big announcements really to make. Kit was going to make one, but I don't see he's not here yet. Hopefully nothing bad, but if Kit shows up, I've got a microphone for him, just in case. Only thing I did want to mention was that, again, schedules are back in the back if you haven't picked one up or if you need one. But just a reminder that if your wife is in Lamplighters, Lamplighters is studying the same thing. Not only are they studying Mark, but it basically is the exact same verses and chapters every week. If it's a split, there's Kit. If it's a split chapter, like when we split up chapter 1, it may be off a couple of verses on the dividing line, so to speak. But basically, they're studying Mark 2 this week. They're studying Mark 3 next week. So if your wife is in it, talk to her about it. Talk to her about what you've learned and everything. Kit, we were worried about you. All good? Come on up.
I've spoken about Drive a Senior in the past. Drive a Senior is celebrating a birthday. We're 40 years old, so we're the oldest mission at Covenant. This year, West Austin started the process of Drive a Senior. Names have changed. But then there's Northwest, Northeast, South, Southwest, Round Rock, Georgetown, and so on. All of those separate organizations formed after the model of West Austin. This year, we've decided to merge. So all of the organizations except two have joined together. So South and Southwest, Elgin, Austin, North, Northeast, Pflugerville, Round Rock are all now together. So if you'd like to volunteer, no matter where you live in town, you can volunteer in your area. So at any rate, I just wanted to let you know that we're 40 years old.
Thank you, Kit. And thanks for all that you do for Drive a Senior. Everyone appreciates that. Thank you so much. I can turn this off without having any feedback. Yes, good. Last thing is, I'm wearing the Detroit Tigers today. It's not to pick on Detroit. It's just that I think we get a good life's lesson about this. 2 weeks ago, on September the 10th, Detroit had a 9.5 game lead in their division over Cleveland. And the computer said they had a 99.66 chance of winning the division and making the playoffs. They barely won a game since then. Now they're a game back of Cleveland with, 4 to play, 5 to play. And it's going to be either Detroit or Houston getting the last playoff spot, it looks like, in the American League. If you're a Cleveland fan, it just shows never give up. You never know what's going to happen. If you're a Detroit fan, it just shows you be careful. It's kind of like life. You have to be careful all the time. Anyway, that's my life lesson for the day. Thank you for being here. Let's stand and let's sing. Living God, all fresh on me. Without the living God, fall afresh on me. Let me more be, fill me, be, without the living God, fall afresh on me. Let's pray. Oh, Lord, thank you so much for this glorious day. Thank you for these men, and thank you for what we're learning each and every week from the book of Mark. We appreciate all that you do for each and every one of us. Blessed in your name. Amen. All right, we're in Mark chapter 2 this week. It's a 1-week chapter, and we're going to look at all of the chapter. If you've looked at it already, there's some interesting things to talk about. Jesus is preaching to a big crowd, and there's a paralyzed man there that people want Jesus to heal. But because of all the people that are there, they can't get him inside. So what do? They have to lower him from the roof. Well, Jesus forgives the sins of the paralyzed man, and he's healed. But people are asking, well, who can forgive sins but God alone? Jesus says, what is easier to say? You are forgiven, or get up, take your mat, and walk? Which is easier to say? You are forgiven, or get up, take your mat, and walk? Well, later Jesus goes by a lake. Another large crowd gathers because now he's performing these miracles. He's healing people. He sees a man and he says, follow me. He goes to his house. They walk together to his house, and there are tax collectors there and there are sinners. Nothing worse in that time but besides tax collectors and sinners. And Jesus eats with them. He eats with the sinners. He eats with the tax collectors. Not a way to make friends. But that's Jesus. He invites everyone into his kingdom. Pharisees saw this and they weren't happy. And Jesus said, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. Basically, he's saying the sinners and the tax collectors need him. Okay, then some of John's disciples and Pharisees were fasting. People asked Jesus why he and his disciples were not fasting. He compared it to guests of a bridegroom. And then he said, no one sews a patch of an unshrunk cloth on an old garment. Otherwise, the new piece will pull away from the old, making the tear worse. Think about that for just a second. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. Otherwise, the new piece will pull away from the old, making the tear worse. We finish up with Jesus talking about the Sabbath and being Lord of the Sabbath, but let's go back to Jesus's order not being what you should do, but the order things should go in. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, otherwise the new piece will pull away from the old, making the tear worse. So you shrink the cloth, then you sew. Well, what he's basically saying here to everyone there about forgiveness is that you have to forgive and then heal. You have to forgive and then heal. And he's forgiving these tax collectors and these sinners so now they can heal. That's why he was eating with them. Think about people in your life. Think about yourself, about forgiveness, about times when someone has had something has gone wrong. Things have gone wrong in your life. What do you need to do first? All of us, because we're men, it's just the way we're built, basically, is, we're going to fix it. Let's get this thing fixed. We're going to heal things. But so many times the first thing we have to do is forgive. Sometimes it's forgive ourselves for a mistake that we made. Forgive ourselves for a predicament that we're in. Forgive ourselves for something that we've done that we shouldn't have done. Forgive the other person and then heal the relationship. Forgive the other person and then heal what's going on in our lives. I want to introduce you to a couple of people. The first one is Todd. This is what he looked like when I met him in 6th grade. We went to different elementary schools and then came to the same junior high, met him in 6th grade, and had an instant connection with him because we were 11 years old. He liked sports, he talked sports, he knew sports, he played sports. What else is there in life? So we got along great. And we got to be friends. And over the next 7 years of junior high and high school, I can't remember a time, and I've got a good memory, can't remember a time where he was ever upset or mad or in a bad mood. He was always nice and friendly, had a smile like that on his face. And I can't ever remember getting into an argument with him or getting mad at him. Even when he was in the stands one time during Little League, because we weren't on the same team, and he razzed me for making too many errors at third base. Well, it was true. I deserved getting razzed. I didn't get mad at him. Come on, Barnes. Anyway, I can hear him saying that today. But he was just a good guy. And I can say the same thing about Damon. This is what he looked like in 9th grade when I met him. He went to a different junior high. We went to the same high school. I met him the first day of 9th grade football practice. And then a little while later when we started school, We had first period together, world history, and he sat right behind me all year long. So we got to be good friends. The next year, even after I'd quit football, he was still playing football. We stayed friends. We saw each other at lunch every day and talked a lot about cars as I got a pickup when I started driving in 10th grade. He had a dually. I had no idea what a dually was. You know what a dually is? You know, there's 4 wheels in the back. Who knew at the time? It's like, yeah, I got a dually. What's a dually? I talked to him about girls. Had a crush on a girl who went to his junior high, not to my junior high. I was like, Damon, you got to help me out. How do I get her attention? How do I get her to notice me? He had this old Southern drawl. I was like, Barnes, if you call her, maybe. Not that easy, huh? We got along great. And both of them just good guys. So it was no surprise that the two of them, late in high school, became good friends. They wound up going to the same college together in East Texas State. And it was the fall of our freshman year, right around Thanksgiving, when I found out that the two of them were on the road between East Texas and our hometown. And from what I've heard, and this is secondhand, a drunk driver in the other lane of the highway crossed over the double yellow line and hit them head on. And again, from what I've understood, is that Todd was in the passenger seat and right at impact, basically, dove down to the floorboard and had some serious injuries, broke his leg pretty badly, but he survived. Damon did not. He was driving and didn't make it. And ever since then, I never talked to Todd about this, but ever since then, I always thought how tough that would be for any of us to go through something like that, where you survive and your friend doesn't. Because you know you hit some bad days, some bad times, there's something that happens in your life where you're just demoralized, you're down, and you're like, why did I make it? Why did he not? I don't understand this. And it's just a great example of you've got to forgive and then heal. Whether it's forgive yourself, forgive that drunk driver, forgive whatever happened, you have to forgive and then heal. And it was probably even tougher a few years ago when Todd passed away. He was in his early 50s. So again, when he found out he was sick, think about what you would have done. Why? Why didn't you take me when you took Damon? I don't understand why this is happening. This makes no sense. Again, he didn't say that, but I'm speaking, that's what I would be thinking, especially on a bad day, especially when I found out something like that. But it's easy to look back and go, well, he met the girl of his dreams, married his college sweetheart, had a beautiful baby girl who's now out of college and a young adult. You have to forgive first and then heal. And we all go through things like that we have to, again, forgive ourselves, forgive others, and then let the healing begin. Because we all have these problems in our hearts that need to be healed. That's what we're going to talk about in our small groups, forgiving and healing, and how Jesus helps us with both. Questions are, when have you been confused about Jesus forgiving you? Why do you have trouble forgiving? When has Jesus healed you when you weren't expecting it?